About the 7 stages of the ethical diet. So, to start with, we start with the definitions of what the food and the diet means. Food is any nutritious substance that people and animals eat or drink, plants absorb in order to maintain their life and growth. And then the diet is the sum and the kinds of the food that again a person or other organisms habitually consume.
Nico?
Yeah?
Can you just put the mic a little bit further from your mouth so it doesn't catch it?
There?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, today we will talk about both the food and diet related to ethics. So ethics means a way of living based on moral principles that governs a person's behavior or way of conducting an activity, and ethics is a branch of philosophy. Usually some core ethical principles is beneficence, so do good and enrich life, is non-maleficence, so do no harm. It involves autonomy, that each individual is in control, and also justice, fairness. So, before going to the 7 steps and stages, I would like to mention cannibalism and anthropophagy. And that's the act of consuming another individual of the same species as food, and is a common practice that is practiced in the animal kingdom. More than 1,500 species have been documented practicing cannibalism, and of course is well documented both in ancient and very recent times, and even in some parts of the world is still practiced. So that, as we see, is a diet and is food eating each other. But as we've realized, as humans have evolved in societies, we avoid practicing cannibalism nowadays, based on ethics and moral values mostly, and our societies doesn't perceive it anymore as ethical. And of course, murdering someone and killing someone to consume him is illegal in most countries. So societies evolved in not accepting cannibalism due to ethics. So beyond that, now a percentage of humans on Earth start thinking even more about ethics and in relation to their diet. And the principles of ethics of do not harm and preserve life and enrich life if possible. And based on those ethics, as humans evolve and their consciousness, we start exploring diets as the vegetarian diet, the vegan diet, the raw vegan diet, and the fruitarian diets. And us being on a raw and fruitarian festival, it's a practice that we practice here these 2 weeks. So, after having talked about cannibalism, the next stages that involve ethics with an order is, as we said, the vegetarian diet, the vegan. Then the next 3 stages, the raw till 4, mostly raw, and the fully raw. It's kind of in one stage, but it's broken down in transitions to help people. And then going towards the fruitarian diet, it's the frugivore fruit-based raw vegan diet, and at last the fruitarian diet. So, why these stages are more ethical than as it goes down the line. First, we start with a vegetarian diet. According to that, people who practice it start omitting animal flesh and animal fat, because mostly they have the principle of ethics of do not kill, so they want to avoid killing animals. That's why they decide their diet to omit anything that contains animal flesh and fat. And in that stage, people include animal secretions like milk, dairy, eggs, and all the plant matters that provide nutrition. And usually it's based on cooked. The vegetarian diet, most of the calories come from cooking the food. Next stage, some people realize that it's more ethical for their consciousness to not only stop eating animals and murdering them for food, but also their secretions and what we call the animal products, because they also want to practice, apart from the do not kill and the do not steal ethic value. So they want to avoid stealing and further exploitation of animals. So now they start omitting the milk, all the dairy products, the eggs, and even honey. So in that stage, humans are eating only plant foods, and also, again, usually the vegan diet is based mostly on the cooked plants, the majority of the calories, and it can have also some transitions from a more processed vegan diet to a more whole foods diet, and including more raw. Then next, after that, some vegans start thinking more about ethics, and they do not harm principle. And then they start contemplating about start eating raw their foods instead of cooking them. And mostly the ethical aspect of that is because they want to practice non-harm to their own body, to their own human and animal body. So they do it for health reasons. Usually the first stage people go to start incorporating more raw is that they eat raw plants during the day, and then usually they have a cooked meal, the last meal of the day, or one of the 3 meals, and that's what we call like a raw till 4 or a raw till evening diet. People eat raw, start eating more raw, the roots, tubers, stems, leaves, flowers, fruits, legumes, grains, nuts, seeds, fungi. And they start using more dehydrators, freezers, blenders, juicers to help them imitate, help imitate the cooked meals into a raw form and raw gourmet dishes. And in that stage, usually people avoid junk, processed foods, packets, and they start becoming a little bit more conscious about the effect of sugar, and salt, and oil. So that's kind of a third stage, preparing them to become fully raw. And then next one in transition is they start practicing usually most days, all their meals now are raw, and occasionally some days during the week or the month they can include some cooked vegan food. And again, people in that stage become even more accustomed of trying raw gourmet dishes and imitating more raw meals, imitate their cooked meals. And then, when some of them want, they kind of move to a fully 100% raw vegan diet. And in that stage, they no longer cooking the plants. And in that stage, usually people avoid completely the salt, the cooked oils. Some of them they include the raw cold pressed oil, which can be debatable whether it's truly raw or not, and some natural salt. So they might involve them. So when someone is eating 100% fully raw vegan diet, usually includes all 4 groups that were included in the vegan diet. So they still consume all the roots, tubers, stems, leaves, flowers, fruits, grains, and legumes, nuts, seeds, and fungi that are edible in raw form. With time, some people realize that, this diet can bring some issues and some problems to them, and also start contemplating more the ethical aspect and the not kill and the do not steal that extends from animals, and now it can involve plants that are living structures and beings that they have their circle of life and they want to grow and procreate and enjoy life. So in that state, some people, small minority, start omitting more plant matters and realizing, mimicking also the other primates, to start including more fruits in their raw vegan diet. So now on stage 6, usually people start practicing the frugivore or the fruit-based raw vegan diet. In that diet is different than other primates because other primates, they are not vegan, they don't have that consciousness. They will eat insects, they will eat small animals, they will eat eggs, birds. So primates don't have the conscious of veganism. So humans now, they try to mimic other primates, but also practice veganism and raw. So in that stage of ethics is the fruit-based raw vegan diet. And usually in that stage people omit the roots, the tubers, the legumes, the grains, the seeds, the flowers, the fungi in raw form. And they tend to usually eat 70% or more of the daily calories from fruits, with supplementing some tender stems, leaves, some vegetables and nuts and seeds. And usually at that stage they use less the dehydrators, the blenders, the juicers, the processed raw gourmet foods. And the diet becomes more simple and whole food. Okay, and then the last ethical stage is now, in that state, the person completely acknowledges the ethics of do not harm and do not kill plants. because in that stage only fruits are consumed. And by consuming fruits, someone does not eat no other plant parts, no roots, no tubers, no grains, not seeds, no greens, no flowers, no fungi. They just eat whole fruits, and that means the edible flesh that surrounds the seeds. Okay? And that is a diet that now considers ethics in all life forms, in humans, in animals, and in plants. And only people consume fruits that are given by the trees and the plants, the flesh of that fruit, to facilitate their procreation and disperse the seed. And this flesh of fruits is the only biological structure that is provided by living organisms for food for other animals. So plants create the flesh around their seeds to appeal to animals. It has a taste, it has an aroma, it has color, nutrients, water to feed animals, and those animals in turn spread their seeds, their embryos, to facilitate procreation of the plants. In that stage, now we can see again the ethics. Stage 1, people avoid eating animals, killing them. In the second stage, they avoid stealing and exploiting animals, so they omit their secretions. And then, when people start practicing more the raw and the frugivore and the fruitarian diet, they realize that eating, for example, the root vegetables, when someone eats the root, the plant gets killed. So when someone goes harvest a root, automatically the plant dies. So someone terminates the life of that living being. Then the tubers, which are not exactly the roots, and they can still be harvested without killing the plant automatically at that time. The problem, the unethics about that, is that the tubers serve the role as food for the new plants to shoot. So when that plant dies, those potatoes underground, they will shoot new plants, and this is the food for them. So when we go and we take those tubers, we prevent the procreation of the cycle of the plants, and those plant offsprings can no longer procreate. So we terminate that life. Then, what's the ethical aspect of seeds, which are grains, legumes, nuts? What are the seeds? The seeds are the embryos of the plant. It's like when animals have their embryos, they're living, they're dormant, they're ready to sprout. Each plant creates their seeds to be dispersed, not to be eaten. Then, when someone consumes the leaves and flowers and the stems. In that stage, we don't necessarily kill the plant, but we harm it, okay? Because the stems serve as biological role to transport nutrients, and like it's the spine of the plant, the column, stability. So when we eat those, the plants, their life becomes short, and we're damaging them. Eating flowers, we prohibit their procreation, and eating the seeds again, as we said, is the embryos. What about the leaves, the green leaves? Green leaves are the solar panel of the plants. They are meant to create energy for the plant, so when we go and pick them, the life of the plant can be affected, its energy supply. So it's an act of harm to that living organism. And then the fruits, as we said, is the most ethical diet, because the flesh of all these fruits is intentionally provided by the plants to feed animals. They are given freely to us. Now, plants. We said that leaves, seeds, roots, and tubers, it's not ethical because we damage the plant. And because the plants do not have these structures to provide us food to animals, they have defense mechanisms. And that's what we call in nutrition anti-nutrients and the different toxins of the plants. So plants as living organisms, they have defend themselves from animals. So in their plant structures, they include all these chemicals like lectins that are indigestible proteins that when accumulate can cause harm to the gut wall of the animal and decrease absorptions, oxalates, phytates, and then we see all these plant structures have the highest anti-nutrients, and fruits are ripe fruits, very ripe fruits. The edible flesh is the only structure that has the less of these defense chemicals or none at all. The most ripe the fruit is, the less of these defense chemicals it has. Now, that's the problem when someone follows, one of the problems when someone follows a long-term raw vegan diet. They start consuming a lot of these poisons in their body. So, and that's cooking, it helps destroy a lot of these defense mechanisms. So, cooking has that advantage that in raw diet, long term, these can start harming people. Another problem in plants and their seeds especially is the phytoestrogen content they contain, which are hormones of the plants, and they most, as I said, exist on seeds because seeds want to grow. The embryo wants to grow, so it has a lot of phytoestrogens that promote rapid growth. And then there is research that links high phytoestrogens in people's diet with infertility, breast cancer, decreased thyroid function, and possible other associated health risks. because these phytoestrogens can bind on receptors of humans and other animals and can disrupt long-term their endocrine function. That's another problem of raw plants, especially seeds. And we see the foods that are higher in phytoestrogens are mostly seeds. Yeah. Okay, now, how about cooking? Why cooking is, some people consider it harming for their body and not ethical towards their own body. It's because when we cook plant or an animal flesh, certain chemicals are formed in those degrees of 100% Celsius or more. One of these chemicals is the HCAs and the PAHs. And the higher the plant or the animal is cooked, higher the temperature, the more of these carcinogenic chemicals are formed that affect human cells on the DNA level, causing mutations. Another chemical that is formed, especially when proteins and starches bind together through heat, is called the advanced glycation end products. And we can see, like frying and grilling and roasting, that are the most high heat applied. It produces 4,000 to 9,000 of these chemicals, and less temperature, like boiling and steaming, produces a lot less. And accumulation of these chemicals can contribute to inflammation, atherosclerosis, kidney damage, and various other problems. Another chemical that is formed is the acrylamide, especially on starches and bread. And it happens from 100 degrees Celsius and more. Another problem with cooking the plants is what some scientists describe as digestive leukocytosis. It means that it has been documented that when people eat cooked plants, immune reactions can start increasing, and the number of white cells was observed increasing, so means the immune system is responding. It can consider it as something harmful, and probably is because of the denature of the proteins when they are cooked and the denature of the starches, or it could be because of when something is cooked, it has different microbiome than when it's raw. Also, another problem with cooking is that destroys enzymes and vitamins. Some plant nutrients can become more available with cooking, bioavailable, but others get destroyed, especially vitamin C and B vitamins. Another problem with cooked is that it has a different microbiome than raw foods. And that we can see it very simple. Raw foods have a long shelf life. You harvest something from the garden, you put it on a countertop, it can last days and very slowly start generating. When you go and you cook that plant, with certain hours, it rots. Unless you put it on a freezer or a refrigerator, it's rotting because different strains, bacteria multiply very rapidly. And the Food and the Drug Administration recommends that when someone cooks something, not to eat it after 2 hours of cooking it. Because these bacteria start multiplying very, very rapidly. And we can see like how they can grow in numbers the more time something cooked stays unconsumed. So when people eat cooked plants and vegetables, in their microbiome, colonies of different bacteria and different mutations of bacteria start existing in them. And that's one of the reasons that it's believed that people find very difficult to transition from a cooked diet to a raw diet, and they experience a lot of cravings, is because they have been inoculated with this type of colonies in the gut, and when those colonies don't receive cooked plant matter, hungers and cravings can develop. Also, a lot of people experience addiction on cooked foods, and again, these strains of microbiomes believe that can be a factor for the addictive element of the cooked plants and flesh. Yeah. So that's the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, yes.
I have many questions, but one question about the tubers.
Yes.
Like for example, if I cut a yucca to harvest the yucca under, I can chop it up into pieces and then replant all those stalks and a new yucca will grow. So by doing that, wouldn't I be helping it to proliferate?
Yes, you could help it in some ways, but also at the same time you can harm the existing plant also. Because the tubers, I said, they provide nutrients for the new plants, but also provide nutrients to the old plant. So both the old plant and the new plants receive nutrients. So yeah, someone can use it to help it procreate in some ways, but also harming the existing life of the plant.
How can you quantify the harm when we can't really understand what a plant feels in the same way?
Yes. For my understanding is that the fact that the tuber has a lot of these, what we call them the nutrients and chemicals, is that the plant doesn't want its tuber to be eaten by animals. So, according to that, those defense chemicals, to me, indicates that the living organism doesn't want it to be disturbed.
kind of, when I think of plants, I think of them, okay, yes, they're alive, they're structures, but wants, desires, feelings, this is very like anthropomorphic, I feel. With
Yes.
plants, maybe that's how it is, because that's what they needed to survive, because an animal eating the tuber is not going to chop it up and propagate it, but a human can do that, so it can actually help proliferate and help like create more of those plants. So.
Yes, but the problem is
But
it
it
contains these chemicals and defenses. So it has each plant and each living organism has its own ways of procreating, and it doesn't want to be disturbed. That's why it has defense, poisons.
And wait, so like through cooking, those could be.
Yeah, cooking is a way that humans, in order to survive, they use fire to be able to eat all the animals and the plants as food. So it's a survival diet, inexpensive. It doesn't mean it's the most ethical diet. So, yeah. So cooking on one way, it helps people eat a lot of what they call food, but on the other hand, because of the chemicals that are created in the microbiome in the cooked, their body can be harmed at the same time.
From a lot of the recent research that I've seen on nutrition, specifically dealing with the human microbiome, what I've seen over and over again is that the more diversity a microbiome has, the healthier the human will be. So this has to do with longevity. When they study different people, this is what they've seen, that your health is kind of related to the diversity within your microbiome. So I'm wondering, on the fruitarian, like if you're going to reduce things to only fleshy fruit, aren't you greatly reducing the diversity within the gut?
From my understanding, there is still diversity maintained because fruits have fiber and it's different fruits, different seasons or months of the year, so some diversity is maintained.
Well, it's still a big reduction compared to being able to eat, for example, all fruits, vegetables, leaves.
Yes, it will be a reduction on the species and the variety, but certain people who practice the fruitarian diet due to ethics don't consider that as a problem. And usually people who practice that, they live in a very natural environment, because we think that our microbiome is only enriched by the diet, but it only can be documented. It's also enriched when we come in contact with the soil and the plants, and through our skin, through water, so through the environment. So eating plants is not the only way to enrich our microbiome. Living in nature, in my understanding, is the most key element for someone to enrich and strengthen the microbiome. The more sterile environment they live in, like in cities, more difficult to enrich the microbiome unless it's through different type of foods.
I do have a few other questions, but I don't know if anybody else has questions.
No,
I feel like
yeah.
Well, Denise has a question, or Jen, you have a question?
Can I add just like what I think about it?
Yeah.
I believe that a raw diet would have like the most microbiome diversity because you have to eat more food, like in volume, so you're eating like just more, possibly different bacteria. Plus you're getting it right from the ground, you're not cooking it, so there's quite a lot of bacteria there. And there's a lot of variety of like herbs. And if you're getting all your calories from like more greens and lots of different fruits, that's introducing like so many different nutrients to your gut. And I think that when you cook food and maybe start getting a lot of the calories of your daily nutrient needs from cooked foods, you might take away from how much fruits or vegetables you may be consuming with like smaller amounts. So I think it might end up like lowering your microbiome diversity in some way, which is kind of similar to what everyone was saying. And I think choice would be obviously to garden or to be like in the water outside, really like nurtured in nature.
Thank you. Yes.
I heard that humans, as just like other primates, we have a digestive system that's exactly like that of another primate, like a chimpanzee. And they don't just eat fruit; they eat leafy greens too. I know you mentioned they'll eat other animals too, but ideally, I think if they're in an environment where they have plenty of fruit and greens, that's what they'll eat. So doesn't that indicate that we should be eating leafy greens too?
In my understanding of other primates and my research is that they don't have exactly the same digestive system as humans. For example, they have a large intestine and that helps them absorb more from green leaves and barks and stems. Humans have a shorter, large intestine than other primates. That's one anatomical difference from my understanding. And of course, the taste buds are different, and so it's not exactly the same. Second is that, as we said, primates eat other, as we said, animal flesh and secretion and eggs. Even if it's fruits, they still can eat animal flesh and secretions and barks and leaves. So to me, it's not an indication of ethical diet. Primates don't consider ethics in my understanding of their diet. They eat what is available and what they can find. So it's more like opportunistic animals. In my understanding, only humans have the ability to act out of ethics. That's why only humans practice veganism. Primates don't practice veganism. Okay? And raw, yeah, they use raw because they don't have the ability to use the cooking. It's not a conscious decision as such. It doesn't come out of any ethics. Yes, please.
I have a multi-part question about fruits themselves. You were mentioning that the fruits to be consumed in a fruitarian diet include ripe fruits that have flesh surrounding a seed. Pineapples don't meet this criteria. They also have defensive chemicals. I don't know what they're called exactly. How do you view pineapples in a fruitarian diet?
Okay, the first question is why they don't meet that criteria, because from my understanding they also have seeds, pineapples.
They can, yeah. But it's a fused flower.
Yes, it's both flower and fruit.
Okay.
So it has the seed that it can procreate through consuming the flesh. It goes through the body and the human or the primate will poop it out and disperse it like tomatoes or figs or other small seeded fruits. So having that flesh is to facilitate that. The defense mechanisms, you're exactly right, all fruits have defense mechanisms. The flesh, if the seed is not ripe and viable for procreation, the plant has strong poisons in the flesh of the fruits. So unripe fruits, they are not edible, they are very poisonous. Because the plant doesn't want someone to start consuming the fruit when the seed is not mature enough, the embryo is not mature enough. When the embryo becomes mature enough that it can sprout, then it's time for the flesh to start ripening, and the defense chemicals and the toxic chemicals start missing, and the more ripe the flesh, or minimal or non-defense chemicals there.
The second part of my question would be about spicy peppers, where the defense chemicals seem to increase as they ripen.
Yes. Like with fruits, my understanding is not all fruits are evolved to be consumed by primates or humans or all type of animals. So, like a spicy pepper, you said, it might be more directed to certain insects or certain birds that they have no problem with the spiciness. So not all fruits have developed for human consumption. Most of the fruits are mostly adapted for birds. Okay. And that's why a lot of them have like low calories. And yeah, so yeah, I think.
So a fruitarian diet would exclude peppers?
Yes, having certain chemicals that will upset an animal's digestive system. Yeah, in that case, yeah, you don't eat that fruit. Yeah, so not all fruits are meant for humans. And that's one of the problems sometimes fruitarians or raw people, frugivores or fruitarians experience. They base their diet in fruits that may be not optimal for human consumption, for their energy and for the nutrients and certain other functions that they struggle.
I have a little question, just out of curiosity. As Sarah touched upon it, like you said that the plants doesn't want, I'm just curious what you believe there. If you believe that plants have an awareness and desire, or I'm just a little bit curious there. What your perspective is.
I mean, start talking about the sentient, like whether plants are sentient and have consciousness and feelings. I think this type of research is not as on early stages, and there's mostly hypotheses. And personally, I'm not like occupying or base my ethics on whether plants have feelings or thoughts or consciousness. For me personally, the ethic is, as a plant is a living organism that has defense mechanism, that doesn't want to be killed or harmed and wants to procreate and does its circle of life and is a living being. To me, that's enough to, if I have other food, to let it be and not consume it. Other people and other scientists are looking more into, whether plants have feelings or consciousness. Yes, Mike.
Well, I like that you said that most people eat a survival diet, and that if it's lower on the ethical list, it's more survival every time you go down.
Yes.
And I understand that over time, we as humans required survival diets for many times. Do you think that any of those survival diets are even required at this point? And do you think that the top level right now that you indicate here in your talk is the best for human health?
Okay. This presentation is mostly based on ethics. Also we mentioned, because of living organisms having defense mechanisms, how health can be impacted through the various chemicals and the different microbiome. But health is mental, emotional, physical, and it involves a lot of factors, not just nutrition. It involves the environment also, and the whole lifestyle of the person. So when we talk about health, we need to consider a lot more factors. And ideally, in my understanding and opinion, a most ethical diet under certain factors and parameters can lead to a more optimal health for human. But that doesn't mean someone following the most ethical diet necessarily will achieve health in their life, because health, as I said, it involves a lot more factors than diet. So someone going fruitarian tomorrow doesn't mean they will remain healthy. So it involves a lot of factors, the health aspect, in my understanding. And it's important for me, the transition, the stages to be done long term, not rushed, so the body and the microbiome and all the functions of the body and the metabolism and the absorption and the cells and also the mind, the emotions, transition in a longer period of time and adapt to be able to have more chances to maintain health. Sometimes when people, in my understanding, do very quickly the stages or jump the stages, it most likely can backfire long term, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Yes, Kim?
If my understanding is correct, you've been fruitarian since 2014?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So 10 years?
9 years.
9 years, okay. So I'm just curious, like, what's the benefits that you've been experiencing?
Clarity of mind, very easy digestion, more balance of emotions, and better sleep, not having like intense hunger or cravings, or any what I consider like an addictive element to the food. More simplicity in my life, like preparing food. I eat less amounts over the years. And I feel my body runs more efficiently. And also the raw and especially the fruitarian diet, it was the one that connected me more with nature. So I experienced different connection with the plants and all the natural energies, and appreciating them. And through a fruitarian diet, because I think that the body starts utilizing also the energies of the environment, like the sun, the water, the air, the soil, like all these energies of the nature act as in some way supplementing the diet of eating fruits or raw. So it gave me a whole different appreciation of nature and plants and being here and more connection to them.
Do you experience like getting more insights about like life itself?
As I said, improve my clarity of mind and my emotions stabilized, and I believe over time a lot of my perceptions change and perspectives, and possibly I'm more in touch with my intuition nowadays. Yes, Mike?
Were those benefits immediate, or did it take an extended period of time to realize all of that?
From my experience, we needed years. Yes.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about the phytoestrogens.
Yes.
I had heard a lot about these, that a lot of people were worried, for example, switching to a vegan diet. So this is like, while you're still eating meat, switching to a vegan diet, people would be worried, I shouldn't have soy because it's high in phytoestrogens, and this can be, damaging. It increases estrogen levels. But the research has actually shown that phytoestrogen, because it's a plant estrogen, although it does bind to our estrogen receptors, it blocks the receptor from having true mammalian estrogen bind to it. So it's actually been shown to be protective against cancer, for example.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
There are researches that on the benefits of phytoestrogens, and especially also menopause symptoms. And like in many substances, there are research that can indicate benefits, and other research that can indicate disruption or harm. And similar with phytoestrogens. Yeah.
Specifically, do you know what is the harm? Because that theory that it increases your estrogen was not valid, because it actually doesn't increase estrogen, it actually blocks it.
But
So
because it binds on the same receptors, there is some disruption on the endocrine function, thyroid especially. So there are different researches about that. So people can.
One more question I had was about sprouting.
Yes.
Because legumes and whole grains, all these anti-nutrients that they have, by sprouting them, I've heard that you can eliminate all those negative elements, and it actually becomes much more healthy and easier to digest, and you get a higher nutrient content, and it's still a raw food, but you are still eating the seed, but it's actually supposed to be very healthy.
Yes. Sprouting certain enzyme inhibitors decrease, because now the sprouting starts, the new plant starts, certain inhibitors that were in the embryo, the dormant state, diminish. But then certain other chemicals can start form, like some sprouts become more bitter. If people notice eating sprouts. So other toxic chemicals are formed.
So would you say it depends on what type of sprout? Because some things become sweeter, like wheat, for example, when you sprout it becomes sweet.
Yes, some can become sweeter, some can become bitter. The problem also with sprouting is, again, different microbiome. Bacteria can start forming in sprouts. So
you have to kind of do it properly and keep washing it.
Yes.
If you do it properly, it should be beneficial, no?
Yes, I mean, like in things, you can get some benefit, but also at the same time can be some problems there. And eating sprouts to me is even more unethical than eating the dormant seed.
It's the babies.
Yes, because it's the embryo, but not only that, you already walk with that. It has life, it's shooting out, and
But again, you said yourself, when speaking of ethical diet, we don't know.
Yeah.
There's not any research that could say that plants are sentient, that they have feelings and desires more than just biological mechanisms that are fighting to survive like any other living thing.
True. So, yes, based on that, yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's not about feelings or
Yeah.
sentiment.
Wait, one more little thing.
Yes.
So you did mention how, specifically with ethics, it's most ethical to eat this way, going down the stages. And now, of course, from my perspective, it would be kind of difficult because I'm not at the second to last stage. You know, I eat a vegan diet. I try to eat mostly raw, but I'm not thinking ethically in terms of cooked food is unethical. So I probably have a different mindset on it than if I was like closer to the last stage. But I was wondering, in terms of our own health, if I know that, like, you know, greens, for example, have so much more nutrients. They're so much more nutrient dense. If I eat leafy greens, a lot of leafy greens, I'm getting so many more nutrients and like the very health promoting nutrients and doing better for my own body. And you're saying like, you know, we are animals, so we should, that's like another stage is to want the best for your body. How do you categorize that over the plant leaf, for example? So it's like I'm breaking this leaf off, I'm gonna eat it, I'm taking the solar panel away from the plant, but I'm adding so much nutrition and vitality to my life.
Yes, and also adding some poisonous chemicals that exist in the leaves of the plants.
So would you say that's all plants?
All plants have poisons, yes. Have other anti-nutrients or toxic elements.
What about weighing out the balance? Aren't the
Okay.
nutrients so much higher than those
Okay.
few anti-nutrients?
And that comes back to each person's lifestyle, each person's environment, ethics in themselves, health. We said health has multiple factors, so each person weighs where they are in life and the different factors, and they decide in what extent the ethics and the health and the way they live and how to balance all that. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think we've passed the time, 5 minutes over. Yes, we can finish it here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nicholas.